Good morning, and as always the case, unfortunately, as I highly suspected, I had a lot of JCI stuff to do last night, so unfortunately I couldn't do a live stream last night. Unfortunately, I know some of you were looking forward to it. I know that I did say that I was going to do a live stream, but hey, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Like I say, I am the JCI UK president this year. I got a lot of work to do. You know, it's like having a second job. But I am enjoying it though. I am very, very much so enjoying my time as JCI UK president. Like I say, in about 2 weeks' time, I'm off to the European Presidents meeting in Monaco. So that's going to be fun. Although I doubt I'll probably get to enjoy myself because we'll be in meetings all day. But yes, yesterday, oh my. So I will admit right now, I got it wrong. And why did I get it wrong? Well, to be honest, I think I got it wrong because I was a bit too excited. I don't know if you can tell. Certainly when I was doing that video. Oh, number 3, good morning to you. I don't know if you could tell when I was doing that video, I was a bit excited. Because I genuinely thought this was all going to like pop off. Oh, Crowban, hello, hello, hello. Hello to you as well. So I genuinely thought it was yesterday all going to pop off. And I thought it was going to do so mostly because we've seen the Brexiteers get very, very up and angry, certainly about not only the EU, what we'll just call it for short, the EU regulations bill that was put forward by Jacob Rees-Mogg. Oh, Dave W., good morning to you. Disgruntled Brummy, good morning to you as well. Oop. But yes, good morning, good morning, good morning. Everyone else joining us. Like I say, this is why we're doing this today, because normally this would be an absolute quagmire, but because it's frozen solid, it's far, far easier to traverse across. So, back to what we were talking about before I got distracted. So yeah, I generally thought that the Brexiteers were going to kick off because we've got, or at least had, a cross-party amendment put forward by David Davis. And David Davis isn't, you know, someone small. He's certainly someone who has been in the background for quite some time. Like I say, the last big cabinet position he had when he was Brexit secretary. So really, sort of since then, he's just sort of been on the backbenches. Will he be risking the Barnsley Triangle? Maybe. Well, we might risk it and see what happens today. It's always good to risk the Barnsley Triangle. Oh, but yes, please do remember to hit that like and share button as well. And like I say, pull up a chair, get your tea, get your coffee ready. Like I say, if you're at work, put your headphones in. It's going to be a fun ride, or at least a fun morning walk for you today. So, certainly one area I thought was going to happen yesterday was that there was going to be an open, at least, you know, counter-rebellion to this rebellion. That didn't happen. What essentially happened yesterday when the EU reform and, again, revocation bill came up for voting, to give it its full title, the amendment didn't pass. That was voted down, which was, to be honest, I think a bit disappointing. Obviously, from what you can see, it is very, very much so along party lines. There were very few open Brexiteers that did so. Oh, Colin Thompson, greetings from New York. Greetings to you. So this, again, didn't happen. I thought there would be more Conservatives joining in, because we have seen a lot of Conservatives made certainly very, very wary of this bill. Very wary of this bill. So I thought there might be, maybe, at least a good chance of certainly this amendment passing. Of course, this amendment in particular that they wanted to pass would have essentially gotten rid of the time scale that has been imposed, essentially that all these EU laws are going to be gone by the end of the year. Oh, Houghton 125, good morning from Frosty Pennine Lane, Liverpool. Oh, from Frosty Penny Lane, Liverpool, sorry. I bet property prices on that street are ridiculous. I bet they are. Just because it was in a Beatles song. I can guarantee you, I bet they were absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, so where are we? So ultimately this was unfortunately unsuccessful, but unfortunately it was also unsuccessful, and up till the coda, it's sad most of Labour abstained on the GGR bill. Yeah. I think we'll see most of that happening. Raining in Belgium. Oh, the lefty boater, good morning to you. There's a load of dogs out in front of us. Oh, DJ Jinx, good morning to you. Morning. Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Looks cold. It is cold, to be honest. It is very, very cold, to be honest. It is very, very cold. I think it's minus... I think it might be -1, maybe -2. Not 100% sure. Not without looking at it, that's for certain. But in terms of sort of the bill, obviously this vote that was intended to sort of push forward, forcing the vote on certainly the sort of like trying to protect the workers' rights, that unfortunately didn't go through either. That failed because it looks like the Conservatives didn't join in, which to be honest wasn't too much of a surprise, to be honest. I think we expected that, to be honest. But I think, though, we have to look at why. And I think, obviously, this benefits Labour in sort of two ways. One, if you're forcing a vote on something, there's two things. Either A, well, first of all, you clearly want that bill to pass. But also, it helps separate you from the Conservative, because any future point where these workers' rights come up for discussion, anything like that, Labour can just come out and say, look, we clearly voted against these, here's the bill, they didn't vote for it, that's why things are as they are. Oh, John Picard, good morning to you. Channel 4 had a really good NHS crisis discussion. Yeah, I saw that. I was going to watch that later on, but I missed that, unfortunately. But Channel 4, honestly, they're still doing some fantastic work. And update about that, actually. Channel 4, by the looks of it, the privatisation bill has been dropped. So it does look like the Channel 4 will continue in its, certainly for the time being, in its current form. So that is good, at least. That is very good, at least. But back to this bill, because like I say, this bill is going to cause a lot of problems. The EU sort of reform bill, or the EU regulation bill, I suppose as it's called. I was going to call it for its short name, not its full name. Not like the EU reform revocation bill. We'll just call it the EU regulation bill, because really that's what its main aim is to get rid of. Its certainly stated aim really is to rip out thousands of pieces of regulations. And of course, this is sort of the ideological goal of certainly Jacob Rees-Mogg, and of course the new growth coalition that launched, or at least is getting ready to launch next week. So expect some coverage about that. This is actually the new Trussite faction. Oh, hang on. This is the new Trussite faction, which is going to certainly cause themselves a lot of problems for the Tories. But again, it's just another faction to join in the fighting. Oh, what's that? Alexander. British Vault has gone bust within 1.4 billion nurses' wages. Now on a screen in Belize. So yeah, British Vault going under, not surprising. Like I say, they couldn't find any foreign investors. They couldn't find anyone to invest in this factory. I wonder why. I wonder why they couldn't find anyone to invest in this factory. Jeez. I wonder what's putting investors off. And of course, this will screw over the government's, at least the Conservative government's plan to become this new electric car vehicle hub. That's for sure. Because without this gigafactory, all your batteries are now coming from Europe. And that's going to cause a lot of problems, certainly when it comes to assembling and even building these cars. Plus, it just makes the batteries even more expensive. Dave W., what was with the Truss faction? Trouble with the sound back there. So yes, there is a Trussite faction, and they are calling themselves the Coalition for Growth. We'll probably find out about them, like I say, more next week. They're, I think, officially launching apparently next Wednesday. So that's going to be interesting. They've supposedly got backing of about 40 other MPs. We don't know who those MPs are yet. Whether Kersey Katang is one of them remains to be seen, because he's been trying to desperately distance himself from Liz Truss as much as possible to try and salvage his political career. But I very, very much doubt that that is going to be successful. That's for sure. But as we said before, this is just another faction. This is just yet another faction in the Conservative Party in this upcoming, Conservative civil war that's going to absolutely, pop off eventually. And part of the reason why, as I said, I got my sort of prediction wrong yesterday when I did my video, when I was expecting, all this to sort of pop off yesterday. I generally was expecting this to escalate. And I thought it would have escalated quite big, because I'd have thought if you've got this rebellion that succeeds, the Brexiteers are going to pop off massively over this and maybe even have their own rebellion. Would like to see the list of laws Starmer's going to repeal. Well, this is it. I don't think Starmer's going to repeal any laws, to be honest, when it comes to, certainly when it comes to EU regulations. I mean, certainly this is one. If there is a general election this year, then certainly this should be, I think, main number one priority of the of Labour to get rid of. Should absolutely be their number one for this. Not so. William Hay, of all people, Christie. William Hay actually came out and said, yeah, the reason why British Vault collapsed was because of Brexit. He's the only person I've seen that's come out and fully acknowledged sort of the reason why British Vault collapsed was because, again, they couldn't get any foreign investors. Why couldn't they get any foreign investors? Because of Brexit. No one wants to invest in here because of Brexit. Starmer needs the red wall votes. He does need the red wall votes, unfortunately. But the thing is, to get those red wall people, you need to really offer them something. And to be honest, as we are seeing from these polls, the tide is shifting. The tide is greatly shifting from these polls. I mean, today I'm going to cover I suppose you've all seen it, the column in the Telegraph proclaiming that we're going to rejoin the EU sooner rather than later. Well, we're going to go through that. We're going to go through that because I think that needs to be gone through. Oh, hang on. We are approaching the Barnsley Triangle. So if you lose connection or anything like that, don't panic. Do not adjust your sets, as they say. We'll try and resume service as quickly as possible. Watch us just go through and just not lose this at all. It's all the rhubarb, that's why. The Barnsley Triangle. Yep, right, we're through the Barnsley Triangle. 2040p is back, yeah. Hey, it's not a good YouTube video if it doesn't at least dip into 24p. GCHQ adjusting their equipment in Barnsley. Oh. So now what happens? I suppose it's the great question. Because this bill is unpopular, very much so. And what happens now is this is going to go to the Lords. And the Lords have already said, or at least what their job is to scrutinise these types of bills massively. So they are going to scrutinise the heck out of this. Let's see how much the river is. Oh, no, it's not too bad. Not too bad today. A live stream and a live stream. But they haven't. Everything is wonderful. Yeah, in conservative fantasy land, everything is wonderful. But it's not really for everyone else. So, the Lords have already indicated that they ain't letting this bill pass with the sunset clause. They've already indicated that. And I guarantee you, when the Lords start having a look at certainly some of this bill and start to scrutinise it quite significantly, yeah, I guarantee you this, it started off at like 2,000, it's now jumped up to like 4,000. I wouldn't be surprised if they start finding even more laws this bill is going to affect. Would not surprise me in the least. So we're probably going to see now, certainly with this bill, a game of parliamentary ping pong. Because the Lords aren't going to let this pass. The Lords are absolutely not going to let this bill pass. That's for sure. I think any chance of it... Yep. I think this bill passing the Lords has absolutely no chance, certainly as long as that sunset clause is there. And that is the main goal of the Brexiteers. Good morning, Mithril. But that is the main goal of the Brexiteers, to certainly keep that in, because they want to get rid of all these regulations. Their main goal is the complete elimination of all regulations. So as far as they're concerned, if a couple are kept, that's fine. But if they can get rid of the vast majority of them, that's what the whole point of this bill is. It's essentially a very, very quick, essentially attack on certainly the regulations that we have in the UK. I think he thinks I've got something for him. I haven't got anything for you. So I don't know why you're following me. I haven't got anything for you. I haven't got anything for you, boy. Sorry, but I haven't got anything for you. Nothing for you. And that's why you don't feed them. Because they get aggressive and come after you. Now, can we get up here? Yes! Oh, Patrick H, good morning to you. Yeah, no workers' rights wasn't on the side of the bus, exactly. That is another thing that's... yeah, figure of carrot. So, this is really what it was all about. Brexit from the very core beginning, especially for the original core Brexiteers, those original Eurosceptics. They were always complaining about EU regulations, being oh so protectionist. But as we went through in our video a couple of weeks ago, in the modcast, that Jacob Rees-Mogg does for Conservative Home like once a month. You know, he calls these like chemical regulations protectionist, and you're like, well, hold on, Jacob. One of these protectionist bills you want to get rid of is one that protects workers' safety. You know, so that these companies have to provide, you know, the right protective equipment and sort of the maintenance of it as well. That is a regulation that Jacob Rees-Mogg wants to get rid of and calls protectionist. This is why whenever you see these conversations happens, they never talk about the specific regulations they want to get rid of. A big part of the amendment that the cross-party amendment that was tried yesterday was to try and get the people say, okay, if you want to get rid of regulation, well, now you've got to bring that particular regulation before Parliament. Of course, we'll see. Oh, hang on. Houghton, have you seen Jay Hunt's video explaining inflation using coffee cups? There is something deeply disturbing about that individual. Well, Paul, good morning to you. Morning all, morning comrade, day off today. Midful, pff. You think the haunted pencil gives two damns about workers' rights, health and safety? Exactly. Exactly. Well, this is it. Number 3, there's just there's just a lot going on there. I think that is what I'd be doing if I were Labour. I mean, Labour are certainly doing a lot to try and, you know, alert people about this and really tell people just what is, you know, on the cards, what is going to be gotten rid of. And to be honest, it is. I think a lot of people are going to be quite shocked if this bill passes, what protections out of nowhere we just suddenly lose. And there are a lot of protection, especially when it comes down to workers' rights, that's really just going to disappear. Oh, Pretty Bird, greetings, good morning to you. And it's hard often talking about regulations because these are really, really technical things. And it's, to be honest, what most people, like your average genuine voter, really doesn't care about. UK Viking. All UK law that refers to an international standard or a regulation use EU designation for those. Think about it. Yeah, exactly. There's going to be this bill, if it passes, and you know this sunset clause gets in, there's going to be so much chaos caused. So much chaos caused. I mean, remember, Mogg said originally when he introduced this bill, this was only going to affect about 2,000 laws. But as we've come to know, we've found even more. That's the problem. So number 3, just why do these nutters hate regulation so much? Are they insane? Yes. Yes, they are. Unfortunately. In fact, you bring up a good point. Why do they hate these regulations? We've said before that, look, these people are libertarians. And the libertarian principle is basically that the market and capital should be able to do whatever the hell it wants. There should be no regulations, no government regulations. If you're a worker and you work in a factory that's unsafe, well, guess what? Go get yourself a job. Go get yourself a different job. That is the libertarian viewpoint of that. You know, just go get another job. But it's not that easy or simple for all this. And certainly they're very, very much against unions as well. Of course, unions being the number one dealer in all this. Yeah, pollution is fine then. Yeah, exactly. You know, all this stuff, I mean, it's when you think about it, you are right. It's all these regulations going just like that is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Son of Viking, the Libertarians want to abolish legislation. The fascist wants to rule by decree. The bill facilitates both of them. Exactly, yeah. And that's where, again, if you're a pony clubber, I did a video yesterday, or if you're on the Patreon as well, again, just a little plug. You know, I did a video yesterday for you guys saying, you know, as much as I disagree with David Davis, I have to say, him actually standing up and saying, no, I voted for Brexit for more parliamentary sovereignty. This bill takes away parliamentary sovereignty. What are you doing? I'm like, I'll tell you what, you know, I've always said, give credit where credit's due. And, you know, we've criticised Davis many, many times on this channel throughout the years for all the crazy stuff he's done. But actually, for once, standing up for what he's, you know, been banging on about for years since Brexit, good on him for that. You know, I disagree with probably everything else, but, you know, at least he's making a principled stand, which is, you can't very well say that for a lot of other Brexiteers, to be honest. Hang on, get through this mud. This is a big problem when you come across here and you're like, it's frozen mud. Is it frozen or is it just the top? And then you'll just squelch down into it. Crowban, why is protectionism bad? Again, this leads into another prime point, because the libertarians, when it comes to protectionism themselves, will sometimes actually advocate for a certain amount of protectionism while decrying protectionism in other areas. They're never really sort of full-on advocates for protectionism. Sometimes it can come down to the different state of you know, that particular libertarian and where they stand on the libertarian scale, because ooh, boy, are there different scales of libertarian. I'll tell you that now. And we in the UK aren't really used to libertarians. They're not a big political faction. Certainly in the UK. I mean, libertarianism isn't even a widely sort of known about or widely liked area. Certainly because, for one, libertarians. Oh.
Help me.
All right. There's certainly, from one area, libertarians, of course, want to get rid of all social spending so they will completely get rid of the NHS. So that's one big reason why libertarianism isn't liked here in the UK. But protectionism in itself can sometimes be a bad thing. It just depends on what it actually is that it's protecting. It's not really cut and dry to say, you know, protectionism is a good or a bad thing. It can depend on what outcomes that protectionism is doing. So, for example, if you've got a industry that is starting off in the UK, but it has a lot of, you know, foreign competition, to help that business start off, you might pass laws or tariffs that allows that company to be protected against that foreign competition. So in a way that's good, but then again we also see the more extreme end as well. In America you see protectionism massively for the oil industry in America. The oil industry in America does not need to be protected but it uses, of course, its vast lobbying resources over there to certainly ensure that it keeps that pedestal. So, as you can see, protectionism isn't really that cut and dry. It can be a bad thing sometimes, but in many cases, sometimes it can be a good thing. Because if you introduce protections, then that might help to protect, jobs. If you're going to protect an industry, it does help protect jobs in that industry or sector, in that country. So all countries all over the world do engage in some degree or another in forms of sort of protectionism. So it's not really cut and dry, to be honest. So I hope that at least answers your question on that. Crowban, no regulations, no restrictions on the right to strike. Unfortunately, this is what we're seeing currently. The Conservatives try to crack down on striking. In fact, I don't know if any of you may remember, back in 2020, we made a video about just this, actually. The unions, after 2020 and Brexit had officially happened, they all said, as like a big, collective voice, we're going to come back to the UK now. We're going to bring all our knowledge of sort of lobbying and all these different things we've learned over in Europe, we're going to bring them back here to the UK. And I said back in 2020, I would not be surprised if this results in more strikes, to which would be a very, very much negative thing for the certainly for the Brexiteers, even the Conservatives. Just they don't like workers striking, as far as they're concerned. And like I say, we're seeing that play out. And like I say, the longer these strikes drag on, the worse the Conservatives are coming off on it, And we are getting to that stage now where the unions are planning a day of general action. So we're getting there. Maybe it won't be a full-on, general strike, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So, ironically, probably one of the effects of Brexit has been certainly these strikes, and indeed the unions, because they no longer have to spend, money to have offices in Europe, in sort of Brussels, to engage at the European level. Well, all that money is now coming back over here to them. So it would not surprise me in the least if you thought about it, that most of these sort of the strike actions we've probably got at the moment, they are because of Brexit in a way. Because all the unions, they don't have to go to Brussels anymore. All the action is in sort of Westminster. Patrick H. Picking a fight with the nurses seems like political and electoral suicide to me. Yeah, exactly. And particularly in the case of the nurses, the public is massively on side with the nurses when it comes to these strikes. So, as we've said before, not a good look. It is not a good look for the Conservatives at all, these strikes. And the longer these strikes go on, the worse it is. And the thing is, Rishi Sunak, everyone says it. If you look at any article talking about these strikes, the unions, even other people who actually work in these sort of industries, all say, look, there is a deal to be done. But for some reason, Sunak will just not do this deal. And it is because there is the Thatcherite core who really do not understand Margaret Thatcher. Because Margaret Thatcher picked her battles. She knew when and where to fight and who not to fight. And the thing is, the current Thatcherite faction, instead of taking that lesson on board, have just taken on board the fact of, it doesn't matter who it is, we're going to fight them. We're going to fight that battle. And that is a big problem, because you cannot fight every single battle. It is just physically impossible. Oh. Some more ponies for you today. Right, it is not a good look for them, and I think you've probably been seeing a lot of the news cameras on the picket lines talking to these nurses, and the thing is, the public overwhelmingly supports them in this. You've then also got coming up, which I've said for a while was bound to happen sooner or later, a civil servant strike. So they're going on strike as well soon. So, and why is Sunak not doing anything? Well, he's desperate, or at least hoping, got his fingers crossed, that inflation comes under control. Because if inflation comes under control, then these people's wages that are striking will not be under so much pressure. And then the theory for him is that they will probably not go on strike, and then at least maybe they can wait for the pay review boards to sort of weigh in and continue hiding behind them, certainly in this regard. Yeah. This is it, Even people like Thatcher do have their good points. And trust me, being from where I'm from, I'm surprised I haven't I'm surprised I have not spontaneously combusted from even declaring such a statement. But that is the lesson that they are not learning. That you cannot fight every battle. And the thing is, Sunak is being put into an even worse position, because sooner or later he has to do a deal. He has to do a deal with one of them. And the big thing he's saying is, money to do all this? What do you mean there's no money? While at the same time proclaiming that, again, we are one of, the richest countries in the world. Yeah, that's because there are a ton of people that could be afforded to tax more, but of course the Tories daren't go after them. We've certainly got a lot of tax evasion, as we've seen with, Nadeem Zawari just recently. And there's money out there, and ways that Sunak could get money. I mean, you had the other day, there's actually a campaign started called "Tax Me, I'm Rich." I think it was. It was trending a couple of days ago on Twitter. And it's a group of very wealthy individuals who said, "Look, we're making so much money, it's absolutely obscene." And as we said before, if Sunak did literally a 1% wealth tax, that's how much money we're talking about. That you tax these people 1%, and all of a sudden you pay for a whole lot of public services. Not only do you pay for the NHS, you pay for a ton of stuff. It's just 1%. 1%. That's the obscene amount of wealth that is being stored here in this country. And the Tories daren't go after it because why? Most of their donors are from that class and who do not want to be taxed. So, of course, they ain't going to go after them. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. One of the things the statistics that came out the other day, you are right, Patrick, is I think, what is it? That if Sunak had actually done a deal with these people, it would actually be cheaper to have done the deal than to allow these strikes to go forward and continue. And yet he won't do the deal. But yeah, but it just goes to show you how weak Sunak really is when it comes to these types of things. So, as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's been absolutely fun, as always. Please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. Like I say, it's always massively helpful to the channel. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page. You know, the one-off donation link, or Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's the link to the Pony Club, where you can join the Pony Club. Like I say, if you're on the Patreon or the Pony Club, I did a video for you guys yesterday, and there's a ton of videos that are content that I've now made specifically just for you guys. So if you are part of that, you will get to see that. Oh yeah, that was another thing I wanted to talk about, but I didn't get to. The whole Jacinda Ardern thing, stepping down. But yeah, never mind. Like I say, maybe on Saturday, maybe on Saturday for the proper good morning walk. But as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you on Saturday for a good morning walk. We'll see you all then.